Perspective. Do you have the right perspective? That's what we're going to be talking about today on my ride. Come along. Well, many years ago, more than I'd like to admit, I was invited to one of my high school reunions. And we have reunions every 5 years, not every 10 years. Because we love each other. I was dreading this reunion. I knew some guys that I graduated with had already really made it in their industries, and I just didn't want to go. I didn't want to face it to what I saw in my life had added up to at that point. What am I going to say to somebody when they ask, well, what have you been doing since graduating? And the reality of it was, I travel around the country in an old beat up car that might not make it to where I'm going, and if I can't afford the Motel 6, I sleep in it, in the car, and I wake up early the next morning to race against guys who turned out many years later, many be doping, but and if I was very, very lucky, I would squeak in to the top 20, usually the top 30, if I was lucky. It was pretty bad perspective. All the different jobs and entrepreneurship things I was attempting, all those things were really just to pay for me to get to the next race. In my mind, I hadn't made it. My goals starting on this endeavor on a bicycle, when I was 18 years old, of course, like most guys who get into this sport is racing pro or the Tour de France, of course, the Olympics. And there I was in an Olympic year, and was getting my teeth kicked in. I mean, in 95, I was doing pretty well. In 96, when all those guys you read about in the news a few years ago, when they found that one special drug, man, our average speeds in those races went up by miles per hour, and it was really hard to compete. It was really hard to finish a lot of those races. But I said, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna go to the reunion, and people ask what I do. I'm just gonna tell them I'm a commercial real estate agent, and which was true, but that's what I did. I went there. Hey, what do you do? Commercial realtor. Now there's a bunch of guys already, just at the top of their game, just wanting to hear about my last race. Really? Do you know how much money I make? Like I said in the last one, you don't have to do this. You get to do this. And changing my perspective of, and I get to do this. It doesn't matter how much money I make or don't make. I am competing against some of the best racers in the world every weekend, and I'm doing okay. I got to some of these races where I wasn't sure if I had enough gas money to get home, and nothing will motivate you like the thought of being stuck in Fayetteville, Arkansas with not enough money to get back home. My perspective was really bent. I was really angry and couldn't figure out what was wrong. Couldn't think about how I could train more. Maybe I just didn't have enough talent. There's a little bit to that, maybe a lot, but 96 was an excruciatingly hard year. My dad had died previously, and I had made a promise to him that I would make it to the Olympics or I would quit and buckle down, get a real job, and do something with my life. And so there I was at a high school reunion, and I'm standing with doctors and attorneys, and they want to hear about what I do. And some of them were just just like, man, you're living the life, man. I could just spend a week doing what you do. You do know I sleep in my car, right? Now, the real dream might have been different than med school. The real dream might have been different than, you know, having a 50 or 60 hour a week job. The real dream might have been to be an artist. Now they just had no time. And when you have no time, you have no passion. And when you have no passion, it leaves you open to be angry. And there I was, in the exact same place as them. I was in my late 20s. I was at the top of my game. At least here in the Deep South, I was, you know, recognized and respected as one of the better guys around, and it's miserable. My perspective was bent. On this bike path, I don't know if you see that guy back there. The only people I run into are smoking weed. You want to know a dirty little secret about bike riding? We catch a lot of people cheating. You see a 40-year-old couple, 50-year-old couple sitting on the bench by the water, making out. If you're in your 50s, how often do you sit out on a bench making out with your spouse? I wonder what your perspective is that you have to walk out on some hard to get to bike path and make out with some 50-year-old. So my wife called me this morning and said she was about to go for a walk. When she got to the door, realized it was raining, and you know, her perspective was I don't want to walk in the rain. But she said she remembered what I posted on my last video, that you know, she didn't have to go for a walk. She gets to go for a walk, so she went for a walk in the rain. You know, I don't have to ride out here. I get to ride out here. How beautiful this is. There was a race that would have been a really great feather in my cap. I always wanted to win it. On paper, I probably should have done very well at it. I think I did it 14 or 15 times, and I probably only finished half of them, just to, you know, crashes, flat tires, or just being generally out of shape or not cut out for that race. You know, I never even came close. But there was a guy who did win it, and you know, what a great accomplishment to have is to win this race. This is one of the toughest races in the whole country. It's a one-day race. It's really long. It's really hard. It's really dangerous. And you know, this friend of mine, he won it and never mentioned it, and never mentioned it to anybody, that hey, you know, I won one of the hardest one-day races in America. And then this year we got word that that he killed himself. And you know, what a distorted perspective he had. You know, he could have been anything he put his mind to. He put his mind to winning that race. And I'm not going to tell you what race it is, because I don't want people really digging too deep into this guy. But, you know, if I could have had a word with him about perspective, about looking differently at the world, you know, I'm glad some people had a conversation with me, because, boy, after 96, things changed for me. Well, here's another curveball story about perspective. So back in 2004, I had some real serious dental work done. There was a whole room full of people getting ready to work on my lower jaw, you know, dental implants, bone grafts. It was ugly. They were using really big needles, and so they had me hooked up to one of those little finger heart rate monitors, blood pressure cuffs, and all that. And I was in really good shape. I mean, we were preparing to go do these international races. You know, I was doing 6-hour, 7-hour days on my bike, you know, several times a week. And I was on. I just couldn't eat very well because I had all these problems. So this is at the LSU dental school. They see my heart rate is in the 30s. I'm sitting there with, you know, about a quart of Novocaine or lidocaine, whatever it is they pump into your jaw on each side, and my jaw is cranked open, and one says, "Oh, is he checking out?" And I look at her and I'm like, "Checking out what? What does she think I'm checking? Am I checking her out? No." And the other one says, "Yeah, I think we have a problem here." But I hear the word coding. He's coding. What? So she says, "Get the adrenaline." And I grab her hand as she's walking away, but they have my head strapped down. Like, no! But my jaw is like, ah! And she looks at me like, "What's wrong?" And I'm just shaking, no adrenaline. And the doctor finally walks in and they say, "What's wrong?" "He's coding out. Look at his heart rate. It's 34 beats a minute." And the doctor said, "Stop. We've just never worked on someone in shape before. This is what it's supposed to be." And they were like, "What?" You know, so he leans over, you know, as I'm laying there on my back with my head strapped down and things in my mouth, and he says, "When you wake up, is your heart rate typically below 40? I'm like, "Okay, leave him alone. Let's go ahead." Their perspective was that I was gonna die. And if they'd have shot me with that adrenaline, or whatever the hell it was they were gonna stick me with, I might have. Perspective. My perspective on doing all this is, I'm very lucky. Wouldn't say I've led a charmed life, but from other people's perspective, I certainly have. I spent my whole life on a bicycle from the time I was a kid till, you know, the time the baby was born. It's about the only way I ever described myself after I got comfortable with that I didn't have some corporate job somewhere. I was always doing things just to pay for the gaps to get to the bike races. And you know, some people will see that as a very, very charmed life. But I'll tell you, it was, despite it being very difficult and often being broke, I was always pretty happy. I sleep well at night, and I think I'm healthy, and I never had to cheat. I could look at my cycling career as a big old fat F. You know, or you could look at it as I won a lot of things, and I was the first at a lot of things. I was the first from Louisiana to do a lot of things. So this is an age test. There's Jim Rockford's old Firebird sitting right over there. Hold on. Who knows who James Rockford is? This might be the year before. But what a shame an old jewel like that is sitting there up on blocks. Thank you again for watching. I'm going to try to start making these a little shorter. I'm going to try to start talking a little faster, maybe tone the music down a little bit. And tomorrow we're going to talk about teamwork and partnerships and how they could be toxic and bad for your life, or they could make your life a whole heck of a lot better. Anyway, I appreciate you being here with me. For me, Portugal is coming up soon, and I don't want to miss another day, and my perspective is it's going to rain on me every day. I'm just going to ride in the rain every day. All right, see you later. Thanks for watching.